Welcome back to the Tee to Green Golf Podcast, where we amplify the global game of golf and highlight the players that are shaping its future. This past weekend reminded us of how truly international and dynamic the game of golf is. First, Charley launched an intense comeback on Sunday and captured the Let Tours event in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Then we watched Collin Morikawa go viciously over Saturday and Sunday, completed Saturday with a round of 62, finished the deal on Sunday, ended a 2-year winless streak by capturing the Pebble Beach. And in doing so, he reminded us all of why he remains one of the game's truly elite ball strikers. This week, we prepare ourselves for the LPGA's Asia Swing, a competitive event that kicks off in Thailand. Listen, they are bringing together the world's best players. It's an event that they do not fall short of participation, and the eventual winner is the first one to cross the finish line with the most birdies. And then we come back stateside and we are looking for the PGA Tour to compete in one of the most venerable venues year over year that they have on their schedule. And that's the tournament in Riviera. And so we're excited about that. We will launch into this episode and share with you our projected favorites to win both of those tournaments. But before we dig in, just want to start with some news. We'll continue the Patrick Reed story, and it seems like Rory McIlroy is putting himself further and further into this story. And so we've talked about Patrick and his intention to come back to the PGA Tour in the 2027 season. The paperwork has been filed. He's committed to playing on the DP World Tour, and the anticipation has only grown since he first filed and expressed his interest. First, shortly after submitting his paperwork to the tour, he was in Europe and won an event. Solid play from Thursday to Sunday. The Patrick Reed that many of us remember. Very balanced emotionally, solid in his ball striking, timely putting, and sure enough, on Sunday, he hoisted the trophy. Shortly thereafter that, everyone's famed golfer, Rory McIlroy, continued to put himself in. And so as we sit here today, getting you ready for the next weekend of golf, it looks like Rory is poking the bear. And we know that those two have had a love-hate relationship for some years now. Live Golf certainly didn't help that. But Rory seems to be anticipating Patrick's return, and so we'll keep an eye on that as we continue to follow the season. But rest assured, Rory has found himself 10 toes down in something else in golf outside of just him playing those tournaments, and that could be a good thing. It could be a good thing for the sport. Second, really interesting, really intriguing. Tiger Woods hosted his pre-tournament event. As we all know, this is an extremely huge event for him. It is a legacy event in many ways for Tiger, understanding his relationship with Riviera, dating back to his teenage years and when his brand was really starting to expand domestically. He's now the host, something that he takes with great pride, very, very reflective. But the presser was interesting. The press conference was very interesting. A few nuggets from that. First, Tiger shared with everyone that he has and is hitting full shots. That was a bit of surprise, with everyone understanding that Late last year, he went through another procedure. He said he's sore. He was clear in that the procedure replaced some disc, and so he's still working his way back. But he said that he is now hitting full shots. Probably the TNT of that press conference is that he left the door open to return and play in the 2026 Masters. Yes, the same event that is about 6 weeks away. And so, if you have not purchased your ticket, if you have not tapped on your buddy's shoulder who you know has always had a ticket, if you have not reached out to your customers who have tickets and tend to pass those tickets out to you as a vendor, chances are you're either not going to get that ticket this year, or you're going to have to pay a premium on getting it, because Tiger just raised the stakes. He raised the intrigue. He raised the hype around the 2026 Masters, sharing with everybody that yes, the door is open for him to come back and play at this year's Masters. I can only imagine the traffic heading down Interstate 20 in Georgia at that time of year to see a return of many consider the GOAT, also known as Tiger Woods. And so those are the stories that we bring you this week from the world of golf. And as we get you ready for the Riviera and the LPGA, want to just create a bridge and continue to talk about Collin Morikawa. I think it's a story that needs to be celebrated, needs to be talked about. Over the past 2 years, we have watched him grow from someone who demonstrably expresses displeasure at any moment on the course, specifically around a bad shot. We've seen him be very short-tempered with members of the press. We've seen him be honest and transparent about things that he's working on and the status of his game. But this past week, we really saw someone who, over the ebbs and flows of the past 2 years, his own moments where he's been on the cusp of victory, only to find himself in second, third, or worse in a tournament, completely drained and visibly tied from a missed opportunity. This week, it was not that. We've known Collin to really show up and be present and competitive in golf courses where the spotlight is the brightest. As a California guy, he really has shined in those environments. One of his 2 majors is in California. I believe it was in the San Francisco Bay Area. I think it was the Olympic Club, where on Saturday and Sunday, the weather clearly wasn't the best, which if you've been in that Northern California area, you know not to bet that the weather will be favorable over the course of 4 days, given the time of year. And so he showed out during those moments, really achieved a level of success early on tour before falling backwards. But this past week, this tournament at Pebble Beach, he really stood up when he needed to. Closed the deal on Saturday with the 62, certainly letting the field know that he was present and in many respects he was back. Carried that into Sunday, managing his emotions, being consistent, as I said earlier, and arguably one of the best ball strikers in the world, top 3, top 5, wherever you choose to put him, but he's certainly not outside of the top 5 in terms of ball strikers. And it was gratifying to see him putt out, drop his head, pump his fist, wipe his eyes. That was the emotion of someone who continued to believe in himself when, as an athlete, he found himself constantly battling against the lows. But I think what was even more special is that he announced that he and his wife, Kat, are expecting an addition to the family. And so it was a really special moment, not just for Collin, for his household, for the sport of golf. And I think it is certainly worthy of talking about on this episode, and wishing him well for the remainder of the season, extending well wishes to his wife for a healthy pregnancy through the child's birth date or due date. So we've got Collin Morikawa. Listen, let's transition back to the LPGA, a truly, truly global tour. I would encourage you all. There are going to be some late nights. The tournament starts on Wednesday night of this week with a 10 p.m. broadcast Eastern Standard Time. I know that's late in the day, carries through into early the following morning, but it is extremely high-level golf, very talented golfers from parts of the country that we normally don't invest in at any point during the golf season. This tournament brings the absolute best that the LPGA has to offer. You're going to see an assortment of shots. You're going to see a quality course. The spirit and the backdrop of all of it is a golf course in Thailand, but it is a race to the finish line and who has the most birdies for the week and who is low female under par. So we'll look forward to that. And as I think about who is going to be on the top of the board, who's going to host the trophy, I'm going to give you some names to hang on to this week. First and foremost is Ataya Titikul. She is a native of the Philippines. I think that she understands that area of the world. It is hot. It's going to be humid. One important aspect of the tournament this week is how golfers prepare themselves not only for the physical demand of playing the sport, but also for the weather and the elements. Again, it's going to be warm. It's going to be humid. The ladies are going to have to navigate that. And I think Ataya is clearly capable of that. Again, she understands it. She's from that part of the country. In addition to the fact that she's an exceptionally quality golfer, she remains high on the official golf ranking for the LPGA. And so I don't see her not being in contention this week. Next on that list, we have Nelly Korda. Fortunately, and it was good to see, Nelly got off to a really solid start this year. She has already won, which my guess is that that's going to be a boost for her. 2025 was an interesting year where she did not win. Statistically, it was a better year for her than in 2024, when in fact she won 5, 6, 7 times. So she's kick-started her season. I'm sure that this event, from a competitive standpoint, is going to inspire her. The weather will be nice and warm. Ball is going to carry a little further than it normally would. We've known Nelly to be one of the longer ladies on the LPGA in terms of distance off the tee. So she is someone that we have at the top of the list. Next on our list is the impending Hall of Famer Lydia Ko. Lydia is still living in the space of a bit of a resurgence, and maybe that's not the right word, but she announced a few years back that she was looking towards retirement, and I believe it wasn't her intention to play golf after 30. Well, the golf gods and time decided that they were going to push back against Lydia in her statements, and she has subsequently been on a competitive run over the last year and some months. It includes being top five in some tournaments while also winning other tournaments. And so I see her as someone who's very steady. It's rare, if ever, that she defeats herself. She's very surgical. She understands her game, and I think the course will allow someone who is that analytical and intentional to be competitive. And so I think Lydia is going to be right there. Next is Jin Young Ko. Jin Young is someone who remains competitive year in and year out. Again, she doesn't get herself too far outside of what she knows to be right for her game. She, again, is from that Southeast Asia portion of the world. And so I do think that she'll understand the weather and the humidity impact and be able to manage that while also bringing her very solid game to the table. And finally, I don't consider this person a wild card, but it is someone that is oftentimes a sleeper. And if you don't pay attention to her, she winds up drawing that attention at the end of the round on Sunday, either hoisting a trophy or being somewhere in the top five. And when you go down the list, you ask yourself, where did she come from? And that is Celine Boudier from France. She's a Duke University graduate. She played golf there, so there's some familiarity in the States. She's played competitively in the States, but she's another one like Lydia Ko. She's very steady, very intentional, and what I like about Celine, once she gets a birdie, a lot changes in her game, and she is capable on going on a 3, 4, 5 birdie run easily. It could be Thursday, it could be Saturday, and then Saturday carrying over into Sunday. And so Celine is going to be the fifth person that we believe is capable of winning this event this week. And so keep an eye out on the LPGA's Thailand event. I'm sure that you'll enjoy the high level competition and shot making of the event, and then we'll see how it ends up on Sunday. And so listen, we're gonna transition to Riviera. As Tiger said, the greens are probably some of the toughest that exist on the tour schedule year in and year out. Additionally, Riviera is understood to be one of the few truest test of golf venues that the tour plays year in and year out. Without hesitation, we continue to hear that it is a ball striker's course, but more importantly, it is critical that golfers get the ball inside of the fairway. The Kikuyu grass, which is part of the rough, is penal, and so it's going to be hard for you to expect par or birdie if you're not able to stay in the fairway. This year, they've added a really interesting element on one of the par threes, kind of moved the tee, and it's going to play at about 270 yards. So that'll be fun to see how golfers play that. Listen, for many of us, That may be a 3-wood. For others, it could be a driver. Yes, for a par 3. And this week, it's fair to say that that there probably won't be any drivers from the pros. There certainly will be some 3-woods. I can see some 7-woods, some lower modified drivers, some 5-woods. We're going to see an assortment of things. Somebody like Rory may decide to hit a 6-iron. Who knows? But it's setting itself up for a wonderful event. And so as I think about who is going to hoist the trophy at the end of this week, we have a few for you, a few recommendations from the Tee to Green Golf podcast. I'm going to start with someone that I continue to be high on. Talked about him a moment ago, and I think that's Collin Morikawa. There's a lot that he has at his back. Announced the impending birth of his child. Finally ended that winless streak, and did it at Pebble Beach. And so a famed course that many, if not all, of PGA players want to win at that event. They generally want to win a major, but outside of the majors, I think the Memorial, the Players, and I think Pebble Beach are 3 additional events that when you think about your golf resume, you want them on there supporting the majors that you have won. And so I do think that Collin is going to ride that adrenaline and ride that wave of victory. And we shouldn't be surprised if we see him at the top of the leaderboard on Sunday. But listen, Scotty Scheffler's in the field. And Chef has already won an event this year, but it looks like the past 2 or 3 that he's played in, he's had some bumpy starts. What's interesting about Scotty right now, and I've talked about this in previous seasons of the Tee to Green Golf podcast, is Scotty seems to have positioned himself as the ultimate chaser. He has done that in previous weeks, but this past weekend at Pebble Beach, he started his final round 8 shots back. And at one point after he finished, he was actually tied for the lead. I believe he was at 19 under. And so I don't know. Listen, I'm not going to take him off the top 5 this week, but make sure that you have Scotty in your top 5. Whatever's not gone right on Thursday and Friday, I think we understand and have come to know that Scotty will fix that. And certainly, if he's anywhere in the top 2 or 3 on Sunday, he generally does not lose. He's a solid ball striker, much like Collin, has the ability to move the ball left to right, right to left off the tee, which I believe increases his odds and the percentage of him getting into the fairway. And so he certainly needs to be up on that list. Oh, let's see. Going down the list, I'm going to go with Xander Schauffele. I continue to be a Xander Schauffele fan. Just had a really, really unique and unanticipated season. He's a SoCal kid, understands the landscape of SoCal golf. I do think that this is going to be a comeback year. Last year wasn't the best for him. He still has control of his game. Really, really solid, for the most part, driver of the ball off the tee, but also extremely strong in his ball striking. So Xander's going to be there. Next, we're going to add Rory McIlroy. We're going to add Rory to the list of potential victors this week. Rory has really accomplished all that he was probably driving himself to, and that's the career Grand Slam. But he is a historian. He's a golf historian, and he's won Bay Hill, and so he's got that connection to Arnold. I've heard him talk about how much it would mean to him to win at the Memorial, to get a handshake and the trophy from Jack, and now the person that really inspired him to play golf and served as a role model early on remains his business partner in TGL. He would love to shake hands and hoist the trophy of the Genesis Invitational and receive that from Tiger Woods. So Rory's going to be there. I think his game is rounding itself into shape. He's talked a little bit about that. He's worked closely with TaylorMade on some drivers and iterations with drivers. He did talk about hitting the ball with his irons well last week. So he's piecing things together as the season begins to shape out. And I have a sense that he's going to be motivated to make sure it all comes together this week because it's such an important event for the tour. And then last, this is someone again that for at least 3 seasons I continue to be high on, and that's Max Homa. Max is also a Southern California kid. He understands these SoCal golf courses. He too took a step back in 2025. I don't think that it's dimmed his competitive fire at all. And so I am looking forward to really a kickstart to Max's 2026 season this year, and looking for that to take place at Riviera. And so that's what we have for you this week from the Tee to Green Golf Podcast. Many of the tours that we like to cover are idle this week. We've talked about the LPGA who will be playing. We've talked about the PGA who will be playing. We will keep our eyes on the Ladies European Tour. This is their off week before they start a 4-week run in Australia next week. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The Sapphire Tour, the APGA, they are preparing for the kickoff of their season. So thanks for being with us. We appreciate you following us on YouTube. We hope that you enjoy the golfers this week on both tours. And as we always say, hit it straight from tee to green. We are